This is Millennial Money Mindset. If you want the fruit, you need the root.
Money Mindset.
I think that sounds alright.
So we're talking 5 best investing books of all time. So the 5 biggest or best investing books ever. So I've read hundreds if not thousands of books, and I love coming on YouTube and looking at reviews and speaking to people about which books they recommend. I've read lots of investing books and a lot of it influences my main book, Millennial Money Mindset, and I boiled it down to 5 books, and we're going through each book in turn in each video. So today we're talking about Rich Dad Poor Dad Guide to Investing. So this isn't Rich Dad Poor Dad, the usual one. I'd highly recommend that book. I'd class that more as a personal finance book. So a little bit of a difference between investing and personal finance. So investing is more about the market, about buying and selling shares, whereas personal finance is more about saving, mindset, that kind of vibe. So yeah, what would I recommend? So I'm going to give away 5 of my biggest takeaways from this book. So I'm a big fan of Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. It's not just this one. There's maybe about 5, 6, maybe 7 books of his I've read, all in the same kind of Rich Dad Poor Dad kind of brand. Most of them are pretty good. I'd highly recommend the original Rich Dad Poor Dad for mindset. This one is a little bit different. It's a bit more about investing. So I'm going to go through my big 5 kind of takeaways. So yeah, please check out Millennial Money Mindset. If you want the fruit, you need the roots. It's my book, I'm the author. And Football Formation Asset Allocation, it's a card game I've created which makes investing simple, fun and achievable. So why invest? So today everyone is an investor. So you watching at home, if you have a pound coin in your back pocket that's been eroded by inflation because it's sat in cash, or a roof over your head, that's an investment. You're renting or you're buying a property. You're investing your time as well. You go to a job, you exchange your time for money. And even if you are in that job, then you're in a pension scheme. So your employer in the UK now legally has to put you into a pension scheme called auto enrollment. So you are now an investor, and you need to understand this stuff to get it handled, to understand it. The more you know, the easier it becomes. The more you understand, the less you have to spend on it, believe it or not. So I now only spend about 90 minutes, so I brought it down to about 93 minutes. I do it about every 6 months is all I spend on my investing. So that's essentially what I do in my coaching courses. I essentially help people automate their investing and make it as simple as possible. The secret is actually investing is not that difficult if you want to understand the key principles. So you don't have to worry about the ups and downs of the market. You don't have to sit on a weekend looking at the stock prices. This is not what you have to do these days. So today technology is amazing. It's never been so easy or cheaper to invest. So yeah, once you understand, just come on one of my coaching programs, come on Football Formation Asset Allocation, and essentially we teach all the principles and we explain how to set up your portfolio automatically, so you don't need to, and we reduce your risk, we reduce your stress, and we save you money. So let's get through it. So Rich Dad Poor Dad, so the big 5 takeaways. So the first point is the Pareto Principle, which is mind-blowing. If you haven't heard of the Pareto Principle, please check it out. There's actually a really good book called The 80-20 Principle, which is there, by Richard Koch, and yeah, it's literally mind-blowing if you haven't heard of the 80-20 Principle. And just briefly, it means that 20% of your effort will create 80% of your reward, and that's in everything. That's in investing, productivity, even like tidying your house. If you spend the 20% of the stuff, the effort will create 80% of your returns. And this is the law of nature. This was studied. It was an Italian economist in I think it was like the 18th century. I can't remember the year, but essentially this guy called Vilfredo Pareto originally discovered this, and he discovered it around a pea. He was measuring pods of peas, like how productive these pea production was in his garden. Essentially, he boiled it down to 20% of the peas, or the pods, were producing 80% of the peas. And then he kind of measured that in the economy and found out that 20% of people are creating 80% of the wealth. It is literally mind-blowing how it's a law of nature, a bit like gravity. It's a bit like it works with everything. It's not an exact science, but it's pretty mind-blowing. So that was the first kind of big takeaway. I think it was actually the first time I read about the 80-20 principle was in this book. And then I went on to read the 80-20 principle by Richard Koch, and I've actually even bought, this is where the original book, The Mind and Society, which is proper nerdy, but that's Wilfredo Pareto's kind of book where he wrote about it in. So that's the first one. So it's the law of nature, and in your investing you can actually get, if you 20% of your effort, just put in 20% of your money will create 80% of your returns. It's that simple. So that's number one. The second one is types of income. So if you don't know any of Rich Dad Poor Dad stuff, highly recommend it. He's all about essentially making money work for you rather than you working for money. So in the old days, in his first book he talks about having two dads, a poor dad and a rich dad, where his poor dad would be, he's a school lecturer and he goes to work every day, whereas his rich dad is essentially a businessman and he gets money working for him. So in this book, Robert Kiyosaki boils it down to 3 different types of income. So you've got earned income, so that's where you go to work for a job, you exchange your time for money. And essentially a lot of people do that today. I'm not saying it's wrong, but it's not how to create wealth. So it was kind of groundbreaking at the time. People maybe don't give Robert Kiyosaki enough credit, I think, about the work he did and the books that he wrote. I think they're pretty groundbreaking. The first book was written in 1997, and people talk about mindset now like it's normal, but at the time when I read it, he got a lot of stick. He got a lot of, especially from academics, because he was criticising the system, so to speak, and but he kind of essentially proved them wrong. So I think Robert Kiyosaki should get a lot more credit than perhaps he has done in the past. So the first type, earned income. Second one is portfolio income, and that's like when you buy shares or if you have bonds, or and essentially you get so if you buy a share, you get a portion of those profits, which are called dividends, or if you buy shares, they go up in price and you can sell those. You can take an income each year if you want. Essentially they talk about, you have an accumulation phase, then you have essentially a decumulation phase when you hit retirement. So if you're in your 60s, then you start to draw down on that income, or draw down from those assets and to create an income, and that's a portfolio income. And then the third type of income is what they call a passive income. Don't necessarily agree with the word passive, because as a business owner myself, I know how hard it is to create assets, but the idea is to create assets like businesses that produce an income for you, so when that can produce an income from when you're not there. So I have an online course on Udemy, so if you just type in Udemy football formation asset allocation, I have 1,000 students this year that have taken my course, and I get paid from that. I'm not physically there, I still answer questions, if they have questions or comments, I still go in and answer them, but I'm not physically there like a student. I'm like students that come into my classroom. It's an online course, and that's kind of passive income. Or I've got my game, my football formation asset allocation game. It's a card game. It's now in shops in Oxford. So there's a shop, it's like a prestigious shop called Hoy's in Oxford. It does like vintage games. They're selling that football formation now. So if someone now goes in and buys that game, I get part of those profits. I'm not necessarily doing anything, so it's kind of passive. Although it took me years to build and create. Like my book is, people go and buy my book. It's on Amazon, and I don't have to be there now, but it took me 3 years. I wrote every day for 3 years to write that book, but essentially the work's now been done. If someone goes onto Amazon today, there's an audio book as well. They can essentially just read that book, and they can learn from my experience and my kind of knowledge. So there are 3 types of income. So earned income, portfolio income, and passive income. And it's important to know the difference. So if you're looking to create wealth, then it's really important to start building portfolio income. And even the next stage up would be to build businesses to create passive income. That's the second point I took from this book. So the third thing I took from this book, the big takeaway. So asset puts money into your pocket, whereas a liability takes money out of your pocket. I've said this so many times, so please bear with me if you've heard me say this before, but it's so important. And this was one of his groundbreaking concepts. This was pretty groundbreaking in 1997 when he kind of came up with this. And I talk about a lot about in my book where you're getting assets that are putting money into your pocket. So all the income we talked about before, the 3 types of income, they're assets and they're putting money into your pocket. It's a bit like planting a seed. That seed will grow and that tree will grow, provide you shelter in the winter, provide you shade in the summer, and will provide fruits for you to eat and nourish. So these are assets. This is like an asset. It's like an apple. 4 is like a vehicle is an asset is like a vehicle. So it's all an investment is getting you from point A to point B. So it's getting from where you are to where you want to get to. So in my courses, my 5-step method, we go through a life plan. We build your life plan for you, essentially to where you want to get to. And it's like, think of it like a vehicle. So you get in the vehicle, turn the key, and then you drive, and it gets to where you want to. It can be quite scary if you look under the bonnet. You've got all that engineering and all that kind of pistons and kind of the metal and kind of the oil changes. You're like, oh, what is this underneath the bonnet? It's a bit like if you look under the bonnet of some investments. If you go into some of these fund into all these different types of shares, you can be like, wow, it can be quite overwhelming about what contains all these investments. But in essence, it's just a vehicle to get you from where you are to where you get to, where you want to get to. So it's just thinking it like that. It's really simple, easy, and achievable if you understand the key principles. So that's step 4, and then step 5, and maybe a bit woo-woo, a bit out there, but essentially, imagination is more important than knowledge. So he talked about this in his book. It was actually Albert Einstein that said this originally. So imagination is more important than knowledge. So imagine that. So it's almost like, so today we've got the internet. You can go online and you can Google anything. That's information at your fingertip, and you can actually have knowledge now. So you can go. So when I wrote my book, I went on Udemy and learned how to write a book. I actually went and took a course. How do I write a book? I got a C at GCSE, so I was never like naturally gifted at writing, but I taught myself how to write. So we're now in the knowledge economy. So just like if you want to know how to invest, you can just go on my course, just type in Udemy, football formation, asset allocation. It will teach you how to invest. So this is the thing. But now the next stage on is imagination. So like we said about the life plan, you can almost imagine where you want to get to, and you can create a life with there's more opportunities, there's more abundance than there's ever been before, and essentially you can create the life that you want to. It's never been easier to do that with investing or starting your own business. So, and just thinking like money is just an idea, it's just a technology. People get hung up and emotional about money, but it's actually just a technology. It's just like the internet, or it's just like Bitcoin, or it's just like electricity. It's not actually, people get scared of money because it can be quite emotional if you don't have it. But it's the more security you need in your life, the more scarcity there will be. So the more security you need, the more scarcity there will be. So taking risks might sound scary. If you're investing into the stock market, it can be quite scary, but to take that risk, it will actually pay off in the long term. It's actually less risky to invest if you're looking 10, 20, 30 years, it's less risky to put money into the stock market than it is keeping money in cash, because it's going to get eroded by cash. So if you want to gain abundance, you need more skills, be more creative, work with other people. You need to add value to people's lives. This is essentially the core of this book. So to get abundance, you need more skills, have more creativity, and to build that wealth and to become financially independent. So that's essentially the core of this book. So let's summarize this Rich Dad Poor Dad guide to investing. So the 5 big takeaways. So number 1, the the 80-20 principle. It's pretty mind-blowing. Check it out if you haven't. Just Google it. It's quite so 20% of your efforts will create 80% of the results. It's pretty mind-blowing. Number 2, the 3 types of income. So earned income, portfolio income, and passive income. So check those out, and it's good to understand the difference and start building up portfolio income. So when you do stop working, you have enough assets or enough portfolio that will start paying you an income, so you don't need to work anymore, or you can work for joy rather than work for necessity. Number 3 is assets. So an asset will put money into your pocket, whereas a liability will take money out of your pocket. It's just like, think of it like a road trip. You're going on a road, a car is like a vehicle, gets you from point A to point B, where you are to where you want to get to. Number 5 is imagination is more important than knowledge. So actually using your imagination and mindset. So my book is called Millennial Money Mindset. If you want the fruits, you need the roots. So think of the mindset. It's more important than actual technical knowledge of when to buy and sell. So the mindset is more important than what stocks and shares you're buying. It's one of the most important things you can do with investing. So my name's Neil Doig. I'm the author of Millennial Money Mindset. If you want the fruits, you need the roots. Creator of football formation, asset allocation. So this has been the 5 best tips from Rich Dad Poor Dad Guide to Investing, and we're going through my 5 best investing books of all time, and the others are there. We're going through each in turn, so check out the other videos if you haven't seen those. Please like, please subscribe, and please tell one person about Millennial Money Mindset. If you want the fruits, you need the roots. Thank you so much for joining us.
Money Mindset.
I think that sounds alright.